You may think this is a parody, but unfortunately, this is very true.
I'm here to tell you what normally you'll never hear because they're too afraid. What type of school were you working at?
I have worked in both the Department of Education as well as in 2 charter schools.
2 charter schools?
Yes.
So you mean to tell me that the same kind of stuff goes on in charter schools? It's not just public schools?
The same, possibly even worse in some cases, due to the fact that there is absolutely no accountability in charter schools.
No accountability?
None at all.
And like, what are some of the kinds of things that happened to you that were negative?
There was abuse of students, abuse of teachers, abuse of parents, information being withheld from the parents, appropriate education not being provided to the students. The students did not have things such as a science lab. They did not have foreign language instruction properly the way that it was advertised. There were violations of special education.
Is that what you mean by abuse of students? The lack of academic opportunity?
Students were even called mentally retarded.
By teachers?
By the principal.
Oh, by in front of them?
Yes.
And Anonymous 3, do you have something?
Yes, I have something to add to that. I worked in both alternative, similar to charter schools, and regular high schools. In the regular high school I was in, I had a principal who went to the Leadership Academy, which is a fast-track school for administrators run by Joel Klein. And
Joel Klein, now is he the superintendent?
Correct, New York City superintendent. And
Chancellor.
they followed Jack Welch's, GE's Jack Welch's philosophy of firing 10% of the workforce to terrorize the rest into submission.
Okay.
It's a fast-track leadership academy. When I was in the regular high school, I'm certified both in the subject matter and special ed. They would not identify the special ed students in my classroom.
Yep, that sounds good. But wait a minute, it's illegal, isn't it?
State and federal law.
Right, they have to be identified with an IEP.
Exactly.
It's a contract.
They refused to identify them to me, and at this time, UFT advocate Carmen Farina was doing a fact-finding, trying to get information, and they wouldn't give it to us. They gave us a runaround, and finally there was a meeting just before they fired me, where they got all the special ed people together and told me I couldn't know who my special ed students were because I might stigmatize them. Now I'm certified in special ed #1. But not only that, also when I worked in an alternative school, they said, we don't accept special ed students. Now, a vast majority of inner city students are special ed. So they would just simply not give them services. Also, when I worked in a non-traditional high school, the IEPs would just, somebody would have had an IEP, but then suddenly the IEP would just get lost.
I heard that.
So they would simply not give special ed students their state and federally mandated services. They break the law.
Well, let me ask you a question. You mentioned you were fired. Now, everyone thinks you can't fire a teacher.
Exactly. Yes,
Is it true?
This is something that is generated by the powers that be. That once someone is a teacher, they have to do something god-awful to be fired. This is simply not the case. There are so many teachers who do nothing wrong, who are good, excellent teachers.
Oh, but I think they do something wrong.
They show up, they're too smart, or the the powers that be, the administrators feel that they're too smart to, and they'll figure out what is going on.
So what they do wrong is they expose some of these things like these federal law violations.
Or they just try to do their job honestly. And the students like them.
Well, I noticed that
And this is
Anonymous
a threat.
too was really shaking her head when you mentioned some of the things. It sounds like you had the same thing in the charter school. Is that right?
Oh boy. Indeed, we did. I ended up taking the initiative of calling NYSED and reporting
NYSED, could you tell me what that
New York
is?
State Education Department.
Oh, okay.
Charter schools are supposed to be given more freedom to do what they're supposed to do. Well, you know, freedom isn't free, and it's the kids who are paying for it. No accountability essentially means that when teachers see something, there's no place to complain to. And we had brought up our issues with the charter school leader multiple times, and she knew how we felt. So when we contacted NYSED, it wasn't that much of a jump for her to guess who it was. We had been being harassed the entire time whenever we disagreed with her. Well, I called NYSED. They recommended I speak to the people I invested and report her for the violations of special education. I did, and all 5 allegations were substantiated. But by that time, I had already been fired, humiliated, and slandered, and more to the list.
Okay. Well, so it's pretty convincing that the problem is the crime. Doesn't matter where we are, whether public schools, charter schools.
Charter schools make it easier for them to do white chalk crime.
Do you think it's easier for white chalk crime in the charter school?
Much easier.
Much
Because
easier.
there's no accountability. Nobody's watching. Nobody's looking at them. Right now, in New York City, 13 or 15 charter schools sued the New York State Comptroller to prevent him from being able to audit them on performance and finances. And they were able to stop them from looking into what they're doing with state funds.
And so you're saying the public schools couldn't have succeeded in that type of a lawsuit?
No way, because they would have to open up their books and prove where they spend the money.
Well,
how is it possible you can get kids to pass a biology regent with 2 microscopes in the school? Where is the money?
With 3 different biology teachers throughout the year.
It looks like Anonymous 3 has something really exciting to tell us.
Oh, no, I think what they're saying is excellent. I was just wanted to piggyback on the humiliation because what they do is they attack this teacher so viciously. And another tactic that these white chalk criminals use is if they go after one teacher, they will go after another teacher simply because she or he befriended that teacher.
Oh, yeah.
So they go after someone if they don't do anything wrong. They go after someone who is too smart. They go after someone who the kids like. They go after someone who's just doing their job.
How about parents like? How about the parents?
And they leave the most mediocre brown nosers in the system.
Have you noticed that the people that the parents like are the ones they really don't like?
Yes.
Because
Yes. And when another group was speaking
Try to prevent
before,
parents and teachers from becoming friends.
That's right.
they empower certain students
Certain
who
types of
act
parents.
very badly. When I first started working at the regular high school that I worked in, a kid told me the first day, "Oh, I got a teacher fired last year," and this student could not write well, and yet I heard another teacher saying, "Oh, he writes well."
This is the end of part 1. Be sure to watch part 2 to learn a lot more about white chalk crime so you can protect your children and our nation.